All right, we are officially live. And of course, I'm trying to get Instagram Live to go. So having difficulties there. But this is the 35th episode. We are officially
There you are.
Hold on, sorry about that. Of course, I'm trying to get Instagram.
Oh, the delay.
Perfect. Okay. There was a big delay there. Okay. So we finally got Instagram Live. Sorry. StreamYard just launched Instagram to be able to go live on there. So we're live on all the channels now. But this is the 35th Tesla Beat podcast. We are so grateful that you're joining us literally in between your Christmas and potentially your New Year's break. And we have a special treat for you. So we have obviously the infamous Joe #Prez with us. And then we have a somewhat of becoming a regular. We have Hans. Thanks for joining us. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm excited to be here for this one. Got a great show in store.
This is a special one. One that kind of came together really well last minute. So. And then, of course, we have the infamous Teardown Titan, Sandy Munro. How's it going, Sandy?
It's going well. Very well, yeah.
Well, awesome. Thanks for joining
so anyway, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all you folks. Yes. Hopefully we'll have a good time right now, and we'll start the year off in the correct fashion.
Yeah, well, what better way than to just do a quick recap on our 2023 thoughts, and then after that, we're going to hit on 2024 predictions potentially and like our outlook, and then we'll deep dive into all of your amazing work with the Tesla team at Gigafactory, Texas. Not only walking the production line, but with the multiple executives and obviously even Elon. So I guess we can just jump into it. Who wants to start out first on 2023?
I don't know what to say about 2023 except for that I think it was a shock to most, and I think the shocks are going to continue into 2024.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good assumption. I'll talk about from my perspective. First 6 months of 2023 were pure hell. I can't even begin to tell you all the shit that happened. And I mean, in July, we were just about dead. I mean, we had a runway of a month for the business, and it was all because of like really poor management and really bad situations and whatnot. And then the other half of the year blew up. I mean, now we've hired back all the guys that we had to lay off, and we've hired like 12 more. It's absolutely the most bizarre year I've ever had in my whole life. I cannot begin to tell you how I don't know what the word would be, but helter-skelter everything went. It's really, really, really bizarre. But the good news is that I have a Cybertruck coming. So how much better who wants anything else for Christmas? Really? Yeah. So that's me.
Before we turn it back, but what are your thoughts from Tesla's perspective on 2023? And it can keep it short. So all the Tesla news that has happened over 2023, what have been your thoughts?
For me, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, Tesla did nothing absolutely wrong. I mean, if we talk about Elon Musk, there's a lot of things that the press is thrown out there and whatnot. But who can say anything wrong about X? Let me rephrase that. SpaceX. Who can say anything wrong about Tesla? Who can say anything wrong about the Boring Company? Okay, so there's a bump in the road here and there with Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, Tesla is flying along. Now, do they have detractors? Absolutely. I mean, they've got so many people predicting the demise of Tesla and the end of Elon Musk and on and on and on. And it ain't going to happen. These are things that are never going to come to pass. One thing is going to come to pass is the Tesla stock. Now, there's been a lot of people that have predicted it's going to go, to nothing. Those are short sellers. They make money by hurting everybody else. But I will tell you for sure, in my estimation, there is absolutely nothing that's going to keep that stock from going to some of the other predictions are $1,000 a share. And I believe that that's probably going to happen. $1,000 a share. I mean, so for me, the launch for the Tesla Cybertruck was brilliant. The all the news that's coming out of China and Germany. I mean, Tesla is in the process now of having the German government go back and rewrite their rules of engagement when it comes to hired help. It's just absolutely amazing the way things are happening. Yeah, so I think Tesla is going to fly along. It's definitely going to be the if not the biggest, it'll be the second biggest electric car company in the world, and everybody else is going to shrink. So that's my
awesome.
Thank you. Kind of look, yeah.
Han, what's your thought, buddy?
Yeah, I super excited about a lot of things from Tesla this year, and we've kind of mentioned some of them, but yeah, starting out with shareholder day, the laying out of the full master plan part 3, really going into details there. And then of course, one of the most interesting pieces of that being the unveiling of the unbox process. And so as we were talking also about moving into 2024, that's something that I'm super excited about keeping my tabs on, is seeing how the unbox process is going along. That's actually something I'm very curious to ask Sandy questions about, is, having seen the Cybertruck production processes, what are the hurdles between where they're at now with that and where they're going with the unbox process? Because I know that is, just like Elon said in the interview, a level of manufacturing technology that is beyond anything that any other automotive manufacturer has today. And, really they're already at that level, but, just continuing to push forward. So excited about that. Obviously the Cybertruck is a huge deal. Getting those things on the road, just shattering expectations in any number of arenas, from just the design, the way that it looks and blows people away, whether they love it or they hate it, all the way down, to not only the technology that's in the car, but how it's made as well. All of that is super impressive. And then, that's not even to talk about what's going to be one of the biggest business lines for Tesla, and that's the just continued rapid iterations and progress on the Optimus bot. So excited about all of that.
Yeah, I think for me, when I think of 2023, I think of, Master Plan 3. That's where it all started. They're probably the first company ever to fully map out what it would look like to get to a sustainable future. Also, too, the massive iterations, as Hans was saying, on Optimus. I mean, that bot has gotten so much. It's advanced so much in just 18 months. I went to the first AI day where it walked for the very first time, and that was like 6 months literally after they had even launched this group to really create a bot. And then, obviously ending the year with the Cybertruck, that's something a vehicle we had been waiting for 4 years, and they finally brought it to fruition. And not only that, they have the whole production line complete, and they're starting to ramp that, which we're going to get into. But it really has been a year of huge headwinds for Legacy Auto. And now Legacy Auto, or really Tesla, has been probably the best company to weather this storm that we're still going through, especially them with the union strikes and everything else. So it's definitely been an interesting year, one with a lot of, with macro headwinds, but Tesla has never been more positioned to do well in 2024. So with that, Joe, did you want to give any thoughts on what you think 2024 is going to look like? And we'll do this quick round table, and then we'll get into the Cybertruck.
Yeah, I'll start with what I think is some people are citing as a negative, and that's the BYD overtaking Tesla in sales in China. I think that is irrelevant, because if Tesla sells 3 million or 4 million vehicles and they are like leveling up, then what difference does it matter if BYD is ahead of them? You know what I mean? And I think people lose sight of that. like hell, even like just like 2 years ago, you know, I mean, they didn't think it was impossible that Tesla was going to reach the 500,000 vehicles a year. And now here we are approaching 2 million vehicles a year. So I look at that. I look at the bigger picture of that, and the fact that people, you know, they think of these things as headwinds. Oh, well, Tesla's losing share, but it doesn't matter how much share they lose if they're still selling the volume that they're selling. And I think that's what gets missed. And I'm looking forward to 2024 because I think that's going to be that's what I'm going to look at in 2024. It's like the number of units and the volume that they sell.
Sandy, you want to go next?
Next?
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Thoughts.
For the future, you mean?
Yeah, for Tesla. For what are your predictions for 2024?
Well, for 2024, I believe that Tesla is going to leak a few things. One of them is probably going to be one of the most serious things. Is going to probably be the robots. I saw on some guy's cell phone a much more advanced version of the robot, and Joe just mentioned the UAW strikes and whatnot. You know, the UAW went from about 1.5 million when I joined Ford to now about just under 300,000. I believe with the advanced robotics that I saw, the animatrons that I saw, are vastly different than what I've seen with all the different videos and even the robots that they show up with at different shopping malls and things like that. The Tesla people have been good at showing this off, but I think that the big card they're going to play probably near the end of the year is going to be, hey, want to buy a robot or do you want to hire UAW? That is going to be one of the big things that's going to kick the daylights out of 2024. I believe that's coming. I believe that you're going to see a gigantic problem with VW. I have no idea how they're going to survive. I know that most of their money is coming from China, and the German government decided to poke the dragon with a stick. That's not a good idea. They have no bargaining position at all. U.S. has some bargaining, but Germany has no chance of poking the dragon and winning. So I see Volkswagen, Audi, of course, and I'm not 100% sure about Porsche, but definitely Mercedes and BMW having a really, really bad year, really bad. And then over on this side of the on this side of the pond, we started looking at things like General Motors. I have no idea how Mary Barra is going to even survive 6 more months before the Wall Street guys want her yanked. They're in deep trouble. I can't imagine. They're all going back to ICE vehicles and whatnot. I think that by the end of next year, they're going to realize that was a giant mistake, and maybe they should hire some new consultants. Most of these things come from the bigger consulting companies and Harvard. Harvard basically runs pretty much everything. So I think that this is probably what's going to be coming up here. That's going to be really disastrous for the big name companies. The small name companies, I believe that you're going to see a Geely coming along gangbusters. They are in the process of dominating Europe. BYD has got some stuff going on in there, but Geely with Volvo and Sear and all these other characters, they've got a full lineup. And they're coming in at a really good price. They're going to be real. They are real competition to BYD, and they are competition to Tesla to some degree. I also think that the German government is going to come out with stuff that's going to do one of two things. Either Germany will get out of the European Union, or they're going to have to go to the European Union and say, we have to change a lot of our rules here in Germany as far as who pays what for layoffs. Because if you take 1/3 of the population of your German company out, you have to pay those guys for 2 years. They can sit home and do nothing. You have to pay them for 2 years.
Wow.
That is a killer. And that's these socialized things that they've come up with. They I have no idea how they're gonna compete. And they're not the Lone Ranger. You've also got BMW and you've got Mercedes also in that same boat. How in the world they're going to survive is beyond me. I really don't know. So 2024 to me, it's going to be a great year for Tesla, great year for probably Chinese vehicles in total. Maybe BYD will be the biggest. They probably will be because they got just so much impetus, but who cares? Like Joe said, who cares? Tesla is going to be gobbling up market. So maybe BYD comes in first, Tesla comes in second. The rest of the guys, they're in SOL, I guess. I can't think of anything positive to say. They're in deep trouble.
Definitely. Thanks, Sandy, for sharing. Hans, your turn.
Yeah, I think
2024.
one of the big things I'm looking forward to is going to be hopefully AI Day 3. And I'd love to see that in Q1. Obviously updates on the bot and dojo progress. We know that right now the NVIDIA cluster is still outpacing on their path to trying to have that 100 exaflops of compute by the end of the year next year. Hopefully dojo is going to play a big portion of that. So far, most of that installed capacity is in NVIDIA. And so I'd like to see the dojo chips actually surpass that and end up being a larger portion. That'll be one of the huge things that we're looking at for. And, the progress of V12, obviously, I think that's another thing that we should see early in the year next year. Because whatever we see as far as progress for FSD in fully end-to-end networks, a lot of that technology is very easy to port over to the Optimus bot. And so I think we'll get a preview of the trajectory of Optimus by watching the trajectory of FSD. And then hopefully, lots more demos of the bot and progress there. So those are the big things. Towards the back end of the year, it's possible that we could see first deliveries of a Gen 3 platform vehicle. I think that that's unlikely, but it's not impossible. Definitely, getting into 2025, it starts to become much more likely. So all of those things I think are huge things to watch out for in the coming year.
Awesome. So I think some of my predictions for 2024, obviously top of mind is full self-driving V12, which could be released. Who knows? Maybe that breaks 2023. And then obviously, I think this is just breaking news. Gigafactory India should be announced pretty soon. So we'll see how that looks. And then we have, I think my assumption is going to be a new product is going to be launched at some point this year, whether it's the van or the robotaxi, we'll see. And then obviously the Cybertruck ramp. So I think that, I can't wait to get the foundation series. I know they've gone probably from maybe 1,000 to 10,000 orders. Obviously that's speculative on how many foundation series that they're taking orders for. But yeah, I would agree a lot with Sandy. I really do think that this is going to be the year, really where, people wanted a narrative that EVs are not the future. And as they continue to, sure, maybe they're getting some of the general public to think that, but really at the end of the day, who is it going to hurt? It's going to hurt the people who are trying to drive this narrative, which is going to be legacy auto. And I think that Sandy made the perfect, he painted this really well, where it's like at the end of the year, they're going to realize that, people are still buying EVs. This is where we're headed. This is the future. Like in California, we have another 11 years before you can't even buy one anymore. So even if they're continuing to delay this process from happening, legacy auto, at the end of the day, they're the one driving this narrative and they're hurting themselves the most. And so, yeah, it'll be a really interesting year. Hopefully, interest rates will go down, which will help move more cars. But all that to say, it's going to be a really, really exciting year. I'll pass it over to Hans. Did you want to start us off into the Cybertruck questions over to Sandy? Or
Sure, yeah. So I have a little bit of a mechanical engineering background. I have a degree. I never did anything too fantastical with it. But that being said, I love to follow all of the work that you do, giving us insights on how the different Tesla models are manufactured. I guess from a high level, we'll start there and then kind of move into some more nitty gritty things. What was the one thing that you were just most blown away with regards to how they are producing the Cybertruck? Either, or I guess maybe one feature or piece of technology that's in the vehicle, and then one manufacturing process or factory tidbit that you just thought were out of this world.
Okay, so let me give you the factory tidbit. I've never seen anybody turn austenite into martensite. I've said this about a zillion times. You have an engineering background, and if you had to take metallurgy, you can't do it. And then I watched it, and I took that for 4 years in high school and 2 more years in college, and I was totally blown away at that. I could not believe my eyes. I can hardly wait to take a sample and shove it under a microscope. I was gonna. So anyways, I've got to try and behave. Joe told me that. Anyhow, at the end of the day, I'm very, very interested in that process. I saw it. It was right in front of me. I saw them doing the pressing. I saw them basically work hardening that steel, but there was no noise. What the hell's with that? There was no noise. And it came out, and I truly believe that that this is like game changing. Who in the world modifies steel on the stamping line? I never saw anything like that before in my life. So that's my thing from the assembly line. Yeah.
Do you think is all of the work hardening that's being done on those rolls of HFS, is all of that being done right there in that big
Yeah.
Schuler line where they're straightening it and then doing the laser cutting it?
Yeah.
Like it's not coming in, like the coils are not already pre-work hardened. They're doing all of that work hardening themselves in-house.
What I was told was that it's austenitic when it comes in. They put it through the straightening rolls and slitters and stuff like that, and then it goes into this work hardening box. It's fairly large. I don't know what's going on inside. Obviously, I just know that, and you can't tell by looking at the product. It doesn't tell you anything. But I can tell you that that's what I was told, was that it goes in austenitic and comes out martensitic.
Did they tell you what the thickness of? So I heard they said it was 1.4 millimeter.
1.3. What?
Yeah, was the feedstock thicker than that? I assume, like it has to be if they're doing that work hardening. They have to be compressing it some.
All you got to do is bend it. So I know how to make it work with stuff like Pendaflex and things like that. I mean, I know how to make, that's the stuff you use to, like, if you're on a ship and you want to defend it from a machine gun fire or things like that, then you may use Pendaflex. And when the bullet hits it, it actually makes the material stronger. And, but I can tell you 1.8 and 1.3 is what I was told are the two thicknesses. That's 1.3 for the fenders and 1.8 for the doors. And I can tell you that I can fire. I go hunting a lot. I used to go hunting a lot. Now I don't do anything. But at the end of the day, I used to be able to fire through a pot or a pan and whatnot. Not a big deal. We used to use them for targets. 1.8, 1.3, I should be able to get through that. But I can't do it if it's martensite. Not a chance. The structural boundary, everything looks like this. It's got long string interfaces and whatnot. And that's why those 45s and the 9mm and everything else, they hit it and just blew up. I mean, you see it in slow motion. And I'm going, that can't happen. What's in back of that? There's got to be, there's got to be something in back of it that's not letting it through. But in actuality, it never occurred to me that you could make martensitic steel out of austenite. I just totally blew me away.
Yeah.
So that's my big thing for manufacturing anyway.
Yeah. What about in the car as far as technology that they unveiled in the Cybertruck?
The big thing for me was 48 volts. And I can't, there isn't one thing because one leads to another, but 48 volts, the Ethernet ring and steer by wire, they're all kind of connected. To me, that's one lump. They probably wanted to go to steer by wire. Steer by wire at 12 volts is like a nightmare. That won't work. But if I want to have steer by wire and I can go to 48 volts, then what I can do is say, well, if I got 48 volts, why am I putting in all the other communication wires and stuff like that? What rationale is there for that? Putting the Ethernet ring, they've been talking about this since I was working in Ford in the 80s. But you can't do it because marketing says, oh, we can't sing a single car if we drop to 48 volts. Or purchasing will tell you there's no 48 volt components, so that'll make our purchasing agents work too hard. So we're not going to do that. Engineers wanted to do it. Marketing, purchasing, finance, that's who runs the companies, not engineers. And that's a fact. That's just the way it is. And if you want to get promoted, all I got to do is say no. So to me, they probably said, I want steer by wire. And then somebody said, well, we can make that, but it's going to be kind of hard from a communication standpoint. We got to have much, much faster. Either we have direct lines, which is what everybody else has got now, or we go with Ethernet. And if we're going to go with Ethernet, I'd still like to have 48 volts. I want to cut down the amount of wiring that I'm going to need. And Ethernet's fast. It's instant. So to me, all three of them are connected. It's one big, it's a strategy. And the little tactical things like the 48 volt, the steer by wire and the Ethernet, that's all part of the grand
Did you see any indication that they are already doing brake by wire, or is it still hydraulics? Is that something that?
Did I say brake? I'm sorry.
No, you said steer. So that's
the
braking by wire is the one thing that I haven't really heard anything about yet. Any confirmations either for or against?
I heard nothing, but I don't understand it personally at all. I mean, again, I land an airplane. It's brake by wire. I mean, there's hydraulics involved and whatnot to clamp up and everything, but it's a little teeny solenoid that gets moved and bingo. I really don't understand why we're so far behind in automotive. It used to be that automotive led the parade, but I guarantee you, if somebody's going to do it, it'll be Tesla. The big thing for me is how come we have to why we still got wing mirrors? Why we still got rear view mirrors? What the hell? What are you thinking? Actually, yesterday I was out cruising around, and I spotted two cars that had the outside mirrors smashed off on one side or the other. And you're going to tell me that's safer than having a camera? Oh, the camera could be damaged. I don't see how. Oh, the camera might get dirty. Tesla's washing the cameras. Why? Where do you get this stuff from? It's all baloney. It's just legacy crap that needs to disappear. We've got to start moving ahead with automotive. And by the way, one of the things that I liked about full self-driving, especially applied to robots, now those robots will be able to see in the back of their head. Not too many people have figured that one out, but I'm telling you what. That is a big deal. To know that the robot can see backwards as well as forward, that's a big deal. A really big deal. And by the way, I know a lot about robots. When I was 16, I started the trade. I was a tool maker before I was an engineer. And when I started the trade, the very first thing that I worked on was a Unimate And that was the first robot ever. And you want to talk about something that would scare the piss out of you continuously. Those old robots were like nasty. But now with the things that Elon's got, and if what I saw is true, if it really is true, okay. So when you have the robot that Elon has shown, it's got a battery pack. You might be able to get power to come to the robot through its feet and stuff like that for induction, but it would be awkward. Something that you could make things happen a lot faster and easier is if you just had it tethered. So it's got a certain amount of area that it can walk around in, and it's got a cable coming down to the robot. Now I got power, I got communication with the rest of the assembly line. I don't have to have a lot of extra communication that could cause, I don't know, a little bit of a problem here and there with signal interference. There's a lot of good things that are happening if what I saw was correct. And I loved the latex fingers. That's another thing. The Utah hand and all these other things they can do, they can juggle an egg and whatnot. But if I've got latex fingers, that's about as close to human fingers as I can get. And that's going to be wizard. The one thing that was really amazing was putting a nut and bolt together with two pieces of steel. Holy shit, I was blown away. That's really hard to do. Really hard. So, and the robot had no problem at all doing it.
One question that I had, Sandy, kind of getting back, we could actually, I didn't even realize we could get into the Optimus, but what's crazy, I guess my question is, so you've torn down pretty much every type of Tesla and multiple ones, right? My question is, when you saw the Cybertruck and you compare the Cybertruck versus the other Tesla vehicles, how big of step forwards from a manufacturing and even technology standpoint was even the Model 3, Model Y, let's say, is being the most advanced to the Cybertruck? Like, how many, did this beat your expectations by, how much more engineering they're doing now? Was it not as big of a leap as you expected, or what were your assumptions on that?
No, this is total blowaway. This is so radically different and so advanced from a material science standpoint, from electronics, from electrics, just from advancements that everybody's known about but didn't have the balls to do. This is the biggest leap that I've seen so far in anything. I don't care what you're talking about. There's nothing in automotive that's taken this many leaps at once. There's rules about, if you're going to design a new car, use an existing engine and transmission. If you're going to, or the other way around, going to have a new engine, put it in an existing car first. That's a big deal. This one, new steels, new manufacturing methods, new 48 volt systems, steer by wire. Good God, this puts everything else to shame. This is like what happened a long time ago in the U.S., like at the turn of the 1900s. Everything, every day there was a new exciting thing that happened. They were inventing left, right, and center, but that was with entrepreneurs, not a bunch of financial or marketing kind of people. This is huge. This is absolutely, even some of the executives can't grasp the advancements that have happened in the Cybertruck. This leaves everything else behind. Period. I don't care who says what. Oh, or Porsche. I don't give a rip. I mean, this is really, really amazing. Amazing technology. Anybody that says anything different is a fool, really. Or they're not an engineer, one or the other.
You know what? Speaking on that part, Sandy, like what you just said, the advancements and everything, and knowing that whether people like to admit it or not, Tesla has led the way, and everybody just seems to be following along, and now we see that with the stampings and the castings and everything else that everybody else is doing. So now knowing that and knowing that Tesla set this precedent, and just like you say, it's been like years before this was, this has been thought about for years and nobody's had the balls to do it. How do you think how fast do you think it's gonna happen that we're gonna start seeing this go into like everything from here on out? Like I know in traditional auto, it's like about a 4-year, window before they can like make the changes with supply chain and everything like that. So I'm just thinking about, my phone. I'm just thinking about the 48 volt architecture going into everything else, and steer by wire just becoming like ubiquitous with everything.
6 years. It'll take 6 years for anybody else to catch up. So let's look at the castings. Okay, so General Motors has got castings in some of their Cadillacs now, bigger castings, but they're not die casting. They're kind of a sand casting, and well, they got semi-permanent molds on the outside and cast cores, and these are okay, but they're not they would not be my first choice for anything that I was going to try and make roadworthy. That doesn't work for me. I like die castings, especially the kind that the high pressure die castings that are happening with with Tesla. Those are magnificent. And if you look at the crashes and everything, oh yeah, how are we going to repair it? Really? I've been in lots of crash testing situations, and quite frankly, I'm more interested in did everybody walk away? And that's what's going to happen with Tesla vehicles. Everybody walks away. They're uber safe because of those castings. So if we look at the castings, first one I saw was in 2020. That was the first one. When was the first one that I could see there was of that size from anybody else? Never. Nobody's got them in yet. Zero. Chinese cars maybe, but not here, not in the U.S. They're still scrambling. Like Ford is jumping on the bandwagon. Excuse me. Ford's jumping on the bandwagon. They have a couple of 6,000 tons and a couple of 8,000 ton units that they took delivery of when I was at the casting show at the Hydra factory. There was 2 of them right there. They was spectacularly big. Okay, but they just got them. And how long before you can take that and put it into a new vehicle? It takes a long time. General Motors is taking the cheap route out, but I'm telling you what, the piece cost on those, if you're going to try and get any volume, it's going to be astronomically expensive because I have to hand make those sand cores. Those things are made with like a robot and glue, basically, and that's a very slow process. That's why that thing that they're trying to sell is like $600,000 or $500,000, whatever the hell, an outrageous amount of money. I can't see anybody moving fast enough to catch up to that. So if we look at 2020 and we're now at 2023 and nobody's got it in place, 6 years, I'm almost never wrong when it comes to this kind of stuff. And if you want to look at the other stuff like software, 10 years. If you want to look at electronics and stuff like that, you could probably get that a little faster, maybe, again, 6 years. But you can't move fast in a big company. They got a lot of rules. They're stupid rules and they're old, but they got a lot of rules, and you got to follow them, or you get fired, which is not so much fun. That's what I remember.
Hans, to you for the next question.
Yeah, so based on the amount of access to the Cybertruck that you were given, getting to talk to the engineering team, the executive team, and then walking the lines that make the factory, how much work do you actually have left to do to get your report out for the Cybertruck and estimate all the cogs from the teardown? I mean, it seems like you probably know at least a third to a half of what would normally go into one of those reports.
Yeah, we just actually had a meeting yesterday, and this is the first time that we've ever when this project is so much bigger than all the rest of the things that we've done. There's so much more testing and validation. There's so much so much more scrutiny that we're going to have when we start going into the electronics and whatnot. We actually have got a partner on this. We're not going to try and do it ourselves. Otherwise, it'll take forever. And we already did that once. We did that with the BMW i3. By the way, the BMW i3 prior to the Cybertruck was the most advanced that I ever saw. They also had large castings, definitely not mega or giga castings, but large castings. And they sorted out the allotropy you needed to have in order to weld a casting to an extruded piece of aluminum. And all that stuff was interesting and good and whatnot, but it's nothing compared to the Cybertruck. I mean, just proving out that what I saw and what I'm saying is accurate, I'm going to have to go to at least 2 or 3 different testing organizations. Going through all of the different parts of the drive-by-wire and whatnot, all those little electric motors are brand spanking new. There's no, we got nothing to compare those things to. This is going to be much, much more detailed than we've ever done before. And I think that we're going to have to try and get it done in 3 months. Otherwise, otherwise we'll get beaten to the market by the big boys. I have my fair share of competition, and I can't begin to tell you how big they're billion-dollar companies. We're a couple of million, but or a few million, but our competition in that area is billions of dollars. They have tens of thousands of people that they can throw at it. The good news is that, like the big three, they've got a lot of rules and regulations, and Munro moves quicker. But I will tell you that this is going to be a lot. This is going to take a lot more work than anything we've ever worked on before. And by the way, you were talking about the migration. If you look at the body of the original Model 3, yikes. Okay. And then you look at the Model Y, and it went through 2 versions, one with 2 castings for the rear, and now 2 castings, one in the front, one in the rear. I mean, that's incredible. That's speed that no car company can come up with. None of the legacies anyway. I believe that it's going to take, again, I go back to 6 years to implement most of the stuff that you're talking about, and that's a minimum. So you're not going to see anything happen now until 2030. The rest of the guys at 2030, that'll be it. They ain't got a chance to do it faster.
So, based on what you've seen so far, do you have a gut feel yet for just roughly where COGS is going to end up on the Cybertruck? Are we talking, a little bit more than Model Y? Are we talking pretty close to X? Just kind of ballpark?
I could guess, but really and truly, I'm not much into guessing. Lots of other people like to do that. I'm not one of them. But I can tell you right now that every time we're going to take something to pieces or remove a panel, we're going to go, holy shit, look at that. I can't believe my eyes. That's kind of like what we're going to, it's true. Every time it's like, holy mackerel, how'd they do this? Where'd that come from? Yeah. Because everybody at Tesla is encouraged to come up with new ways of getting the job done. And everybody into legacy that's the fastest way to get sacked. So totally different kind of environment. I have no idea. I like to think that maybe I'm kind of smart, but I have no idea. None.
Well, quickly jumping back to Optimus, we actually have a quick question from our audience. What jobs can Optimus really do in the Tesla factory? I have serious doubts about it. I'm an automation engineer.
Okay, an automation engineer, they're going to be attacking the 3Ds, dirty, dangerous, and drudgery. And based on what I saw, and I am an automation engineer, I've got several I had several patents. Well, I didn't get them. The companies that I worked for got them. I was a chief engineer of Valiant Machine Tool, which is a huge organization. It used to be family owned and whatnot. The family decided to get out. But anyways, and I was I was the lead for automation and automatic feed and also automatic testing for engine division. And then I got promoted out of there. But at the end of the day, I can tell you right now, what I saw would allow me to do anything that falls into 3Ds. And I think that in essence, I can see almost based on what I saw with that one video that he wouldn't give me. I can guarantee you that there's nothing on the assembly line that a man could do that this thing couldn't do. And that's no bullshit. And that comes straight from, like you talked about cogs and I don't know. Well, I do know this, it'll do anything if it's the same as what I saw.
Crazy.
Yeah.
One other question I have, how soon do you think, when do you think the Optimus would actually be on the Tesla car manufacturing line?
Who's asking these questions?
I'm thinking it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen this year.
Wow, crazy predictions.
Well, it's
coming.
going to be. I mean, it's not crazy. I mean, I saw what I saw.
No, not crazy.
It's well.
I think a lot sooner than probably most people would think.
Well, yes.
Well, not if they're paying attention, right? Because if you look at
it doesn't have any
progress of the last 2 years of what they've done with the robot, you could see that they are leaps and bounds ahead of like most robotics. Like Sandy said, there's people that are great at hands, and there's people that are great at this, and people that are great at that. Well, somehow Tesla's just leapfrogging everybody with what they're doing in just the past 2 years. It's phenomenal.
Well, let me give you an example. When people talk about robots, let me rephrase that, up until Optimus, but anyways, when people talk to me about robots, I say they're they're blind, one-armed idiots, and that's what they are. They usually only got one arm, they can't see, and they pick things up and put things down. An idiot. That's what they are, blind, one-armed idiots. This is not a blind, one-armed idiot. Okay, this thing. I mean, you saw. I don't know whether the thing I saw was real or not, but there's a video out that people have sent me, and they asked me to comment on it. But there's so much that can be done with AI now that I can't tell fact from fiction. But a Cybertruck drives up, a robot gets out, and he's got a cowboy hat and a machine gun. I'm sure you've all seen this. Walks over, gives it to the other guy, puts on the hat, picks up the machine gun, blasts the sides out of another Cybertruck, and then another robot gets out and waves his hand. I can't do that with a blind, one-armed idiot. If that's even close, if that is for real, which I have my doubts, but anyways, if that's for real, that's kind of like totally different than any automation I've ever worked on, for sure. And I truly believe that with the information that I've gotten, that could happen. I can't verify it because I wasn't there when it was done and whatnot. And I hate to guess, but the video is have you guys seen that video?
Yeah, that's a CGI video, the one you're talking about, but it's still. But what Optimus is actually done is pretty capable of those things. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, at the end of the day, what I saw when I was at the Gigafactory totally blew me away. There wasn't guys walking around with machine guns and cowboy hats, but I will tell you that what I saw totally blew me away as far as what a robot can do. Yeah. And by the way, the other thing that I like about this robot, there's a lot of dangerous situations for our warfighters. I'd rather see that. And by the way, I don't know if you're aware of it. That's what Leonardo da Vinci wanted. He wanted to make an armored robot that would fight the wars in Europe, so people didn't have to die. And that's a fact. I got a little video of what it would do, and he thought that success was right around the corner. Thing would just, it could stagger, walk, stop, swing a sword, stagger, walk, stop, and then you had to go and wind it up. I mean, woohoo! I mean, it's like it was crazy. But at the end of the day, he figured that he was gonna solve that problem. Now with this thing, yeah, the robot can see in back of its head, can sense what's going on around him. He can hear much better than a human can, see better than a human can, and probably think faster in those kinds of situations where some people freeze up under, in combat. This never will seize up, never. This could be a really, like I say, it's in a whole bunch. Doctors, or sorry, not doctors, but hospitals. I can see a use for them. Situations with bombs and things, all kinds of stuff.
Well, before we go to the public questions, I wanted to ask you along those lines, because as we know, Tesla makes things for public, and they do things to mass produce.
Yeah.
So, like, I would imagine that DARPA would have loved to have the Cybertruck military-wise before it went out to the public, but now they have to buy them like everybody else. And I imagine, like what you're saying is true with Optimus, like the military would love to have a robot that could just take orders and do those things without having to lose soldiers. Like, I mean, this is just wild to even think that the Tesla's doing these things for the public, for people, and not for the military.
Well, at the end of the day, sooner or later, the military gets interested in anything that looks like it's going to work. Right now, I know that General Motors just got a contract to build some sort of a rugged replacement to the Hummer. Okay. What does that usually involve? Well, it usually involves thick Pendaflex and all kinds of other razzle dazzle in the undercarriage, so that if it runs over a roadside bomb or something, then the people inside won't die. I'm looking at the Cybertruck being able to keep rounds from penetrating, and I'm wondering. I don't know what the body platform is. I'm assuming it's also going to be stainless because it's too hard to weld or anything. I think that there's a good amount of work that's already been done that either General Motors is probably going to try and copy, or that Tesla could go in and say, hey, we could put in a bid for that as well. There's, like I say, if it's the same old, go back and talk to the legacy guys. If you want something dramatically different, you're going to have to talk to a company that thinks differently. And that's not going to be GM. No.
Hans,
does that answer your question, Joe? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. So one of the other questions I had was based on the parts of the factory that you've seen in Austin. How much room do you think is left to actually get the new next gen platform that they're working on? Are they going to have to build out extra buildings there in Austin in order to start producing that vehicle, or do you think they've got enough room left to just go full bore?
They got a lot of room. There's no question about that. But while I was there, I mean, I saw nothing but cement trucks. I never saw so many. I've been in lots of job sites. I never saw one cement truck after another. Every 3 minutes, there's a cement truck going by. 3 or 4 minutes, that's how much it takes to dump and get on your way. I don't even know how you can spread the concrete that quickly. But I watched it day and night. It was, when we came there in the morning, there was the cement trucks. When we left at night, there was cement trucks. they're going like incredibly fast, building more space. And that's I there was a lot of stuff that I heard and knew about that was an embargo. So now it's open and they've talked about it. And the first the small, I don't want to call it any kinds of names, but the first small vehicle that they're going to put out for the $25,000 vehicle or whatever, that's going to be built at that factory in Austin, not in Mexico. You can't put them up fast enough, and Mexico is a tough place to do business. You got to continuously buy off folks, and so it'll probably be a lot slower. So I think that's what they're doing, is they're parking. They're putting their faith in how fast they can get more expansion in Austin, Texas. And by the way, they call that building that they're still building, that's phase 1. Phase 1? Are you shitting me? I mean, how many phases are there? And by the way, they own square miles of that area. This isn't just, we got like, 200 or 300 acres. Bull, they're 200 or 300 square miles. This is like huge. I don't know how big it is, but I know it's a whole lot bigger than anything I've ever seen before. They got big plans for Austin.
So Sandy, we wanted to do a time check. It's been an hour. Do you have more time, or do you have to get going?
I have to get. Whoops, I don't have a watch. So, anyways, what time is it now?
It is 10. So 1 o'clock, probably your time.
Oh, it's 1 o'clock. Okay, so I have another phone call.
Right now?
Actually, no, at 2 o'clock. So, anyways, one of the things that I got to say that I forgot to say was, I think we're going to see a revival in a bunch of guys that wound up getting sacked because they weren't popular or whatever. I think we're going to see, because that's my 2 o'clock. I can't tell you about it, but that's what my 2 o'clock phone call is. I'm going to be talking to somebody who is going to be coming back into the arena, who was told he was full of shit and whatnot, and tossed out like yesterday's garbage. But now all of a sudden, he said blah blah blah, and it actually came true. So I think that we're going to see a lot more of the people that were manhandled or brutalized during 2021, 2022, 2023, and at least 2 of them that I know of are going to be making a return. Yeah, ought to be interesting.
So how much more time would you say you have? Like another 15 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes, a half an hour,
okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
All right. One quick question I have for you is,
Sure.
Since we were talking about the next car, like what would when do you think that they're actually going to be up and producing the next gen platform, or even the $25,000 car? How soon are we looking?
Well, they move awfully fast, a lot faster than anybody else, really and truly. I mean, we see changes in Tesla where normally it would take 4 years for a normal company, and they're doing it in 18 months. So I think it's going to be relatively quick. You don't pour concrete as much as what I saw just for grins and giggles. You don't want to have any more under roof than you want to pay taxes on. That's kind of like, so I think that the $25,000 car is probably not that far away. And with Zeekr making the announcement today they've got a under $30,000 car that's the size of a Tesla Model 3. I think that they're going to want to move quickly. So, and then there's a bunch of stuff that they've got that gives them a head start. So they already have a whole bunch of casting machines. And if you want to make a really small car and you want to move it, if you want to make it fast and you want to use the same sort of techniques, well, you need those great big giant 8,000 ton machines, and I can squirt out a whole lower area. I can shoot, if it's a small enough vehicle, I can shoot the whole thing in one fell swoop. If I've got one casting instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, whatever the battery tray looks like, and I can just go shoot that and get it all in one piece and then bring my battery tray in from the bottom and I'm done. That's pretty fast. And then people have asked me, well, how can you make an inexpensive car? Well, with self-driving, if I've got a self-driving vehicle, that means that I can escape bad situations. I could probably move much, much faster than any other kind of car if I can make it light enough. And so a long time ago, I worked on something called the pop bottle car. And basically, it was taking old pop bottles and you melt them down and you squirt them and turn them into a car. The whole car is like one huge injection molding. No, everybody said, "Oh, you can't do castings," and they showed up. And now people are saying, "Oh, you can't do plastic inject molding that big." Well, that's not 100% true because Chrysler did it when it was still Chrysler, all by itself. Chrysler, they didn't have a problem. They shot that car. And basically, if you look at one of the vehicles that we did, 100% is the club car. The club car precedent is a 100% Munro product. We did everything from marketing studies to the assembly lines to first 500 car build. That was all us. Everything about that car. And what did we do? Well, we shot the vehicle in basically 3 gigantic pieces. Plastic injection molding. And you know what? It works really well and never rusts. And it's strong as any other vehicle out there made out of steel or aluminum. So at the end of the day, I think that might be one option that they could take to make a really inexpensive vehicle that you don't need much of an assembly line for. That could be really revolutionary. Nobody's got anything like that. And so far, I made a couple of predictions that came through, like the big castings and whatnot. But this one here would be the cherry on top of the banana split, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'll pass it to Hans. But one thing I think you and Elon were talking about when he was sharing about the next gen platform is just how insane this is going to be from a manufacturing perspective. Yeah. I mean, we saw the Model Y going even to the Cybertruck, the manufacturing advancements there. The robotaxi or the next gen platform, $25,000 car is going to be leaps and bounds forward.
Right, and that's where I think, like I say, if it's a low cost vehicle, a city car, maybe, I can see going to a plastic injection molding, a robo-taxi as well, as long as it's not on the expressway. Same sort of a deal. So, and then if you looked at the unboxed system, that's been looked at by lots of different people, but putting it together and making sure that everything fits properly, you're going to have a lot more quality control when it comes to the material that comes in the door, if it's a stamping, and you're going to have a lot more control over how does it get put together? Because when you put paint on parts, they don't like to be welded. So I think that's got a lot of potential. Oh man, you can't believe that'll chop. So with castings, you've chopped the body shop down by 1/3. If you put that system in, I can cut the paint booth down to be long and skinny. I could cut that down by 50%. So they usually cost about $1 billion, or somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion. Cut that cost in half, and then my assembly line is like, or my body line is a big nothing. Stamp, 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 hang, 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 paint, 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 click, 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 done. So it's hard to say how much of a difference that could have as well. I just see that when you've got someone who's in charge, a leader that's in charge, and can say, no, you're going to do that because I have $600 or $700 billion in the bank. Then you're not going to be an executive. Like everybody worries about Mary Barra making, I don't know, 50 million or something, whatever, some chump change. It's not making billions of dollars every year. that's the difference between what a leader can do and what a good MBA can do. So there you are.
Hans.
Yeah. So I think that's actually a great transition. I'm going to pivot on the question I was going to ask. One of the things that's incredible about Elon is his ability to lead the company with an engineering focus. But as an engineer, I also know like there's ways that MBAs and accountants and bean counters and human resources people can derail a company and send it on a path to oblivion. But there's also ways that engineers can do that as well.
Oh yeah.
It's so easy for us to try and over optimize forever and end up killing a company for the sake of the perfectly engineered product. And
Right.
Elon is so unique in his ability to keep engineering at the forefront of the decisions and yet not get bogged down, run the business part smart enough to actually grow significantly over time and accomplish these incredibly ambitious plans. What is it about him that you think, like, how does he do that and balance those competing priorities so perfectly?
One thing is his teams are teamwork, real teamwork. Most other companies have silos of activities. So these guys do powertrain, these guys do the suspension, these guys do body, whatever. Okay. Each one's got his own tower. Crossing between one tower to the next, that'll get you in a shitload of problems. I mean, I used to do, when I first came to Ford, I was doing that. And man, I had two jobs at one time with Ford. I was in product design and I was in manufacturing at the same time, mainly because we didn't have enough people at Ford at the time. So I worked on the Vulcan V6 from a design standpoint. And while I was working on that, I was doing the second thing, which was developing the assembly and test line at the same time. It actually made it so we could compress the amount of time to get the job done. But we also had a Team Taurus. And the team worked differently. A lot of folks, because Ford was going out of business in this early 90s or 80s, and they couldn't afford to have a whole bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. And so consequently, what Ford did was they brought people from the manufacturing area in, and they were standing right next to the guys that were product designing the product. And so what happens is engineers want a massage to get perfect, and manufacturing guys say, let's just get the job done. And so what happens is in every program, it's time to shoot the engineer and get the production. At Tesla, this doesn't happen quite like that. It's more like this. These guys are all talking to each other all the time. And so consequently, if an engineer comes up with a good idea or thinks he's got a good idea, and then he takes it to manufacturing, and the manufacturing guy says, no, that don't work. And the engineer will say, why not? And he'll say, well, because of this, and this. We don't even have tools for that. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, let me give you a suggestion. And that's how things go. That's how things go at Tesla. It's amazing. Hey, I got an idea. Let's have a team instead of a bunch of little teams that fight with each other all the time. It's so obvious, but it's so different. And quite frankly, there's a need for everything. There's a need for finance people. There's a need for HR people, but you don't need too many of them. And you should never put marketing in charge of any project ever. Never. Otherwise, it'll never get done, and it'll never be accepted by it. You'll never make any money at it. And I've seen plenty of that too. So engineers, everybody's got their problems. And I know I'm a cheapskate. I'm an engineer, and I got, I want to do it my way kind of stuff. Every engineer is like that. But for me, it was tempered because I was also a tool maker. I also worked on the factory floor. So if you've got a little bit of background on both sides, and I think Elon does, or in his case, the whole ball of wax. I was at finance staff at Ford, but I am definitely not a finance person. Can ask my CFO; she'll tell you. Anyhow, I think that Tesla, just because of teamwork, the way that they've set the company up as a teaming operation, and everybody is allowed to say everything they want to about whatever goes on. That's what makes them great. That's what makes them powerful. And that's what really screws over the hierarchical systems that you've got at the other companies, all the historic kind of companies.
Yeah, and actually, firing people for poor performance instead of for crossing political lines or, going over imaginary boundaries. I think that's another big factor in all of that. Yeah, just like you said, when that's a dynamic that exists in a company, all of a sudden people start shutting up with their good ideas that help to save money or make the product better. And you just kill the ability of a company to iterate over time that way.
Well, it's even more than that, really. I hate to say it, but I mean, at the end of the day, if I wanted to get promoted at Ford quicker, like I got promoted because I did some stuff and it turned out it worked out. But the guys that really got promoted the quickest and the highest were the guys that said no. All you could do is say no. If you're at a big company and you want to get ahead, just say no. It can't be done. Soon as finance hears that, that's music to their ears. They'll stop everything. They will not give you a penny if you just say nope, that won't work, or no, that's going to cost too much money, or no to anything. It's amazing, and that's one of these days I'll finish it. But I was writing a book for engineers to tell them what they're really going to get into once they get their degree and move on. And that's one of the chapters. Just say no. Works great. Yeah.
Well, Hans, sorry, were you going to say something else, Hans? Okay. Well, we want to be respectful of your time, Sandy.
Yeah, okay.
So, first off, thank you so much for joining our podcast that we run every week. So thank you for just spitballing all of your knowledge and sharing, not only your knowledge, but just your experience with Tesla over the past couple weeks when you were with them live back in November.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to come and come onto your show. I'm happy to see you all, especially now that you've got your new clean. I mean, you look like an accountant now. Jeez, I can't believe it.
Should I be the finance person in the room?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you should be. I don't know. Maybe you could be. But you do look nice and clean. And anyways, it's good seeing all you guys, Hans, Joe, John. I mean,
thank you for coming on, Sandy.
Yep. And Happy New Year. Yeah.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you later, Sandy. But please give everyone a follow, patronize them. They're tagged on X. They're also tagged on YouTube. But thank you so much, Sandy, for your time, and Hans for coming and helping us run the show this week, along with Joe as well. So everyone, hopefully you have a great new year. We'll see you in 2024, and hopefully you appreciated this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. Have a great week, everyone.